This is Byron Gordon for the SES YouTube channel. We're at SES New York 2012, and we just finished the Search Marketing and Social Media for Regulated Industries panel. We're talking to Dr. Fu, who moderated the panel. Dr. Fu, this was a terrific panel on a topic that badly needs more attention. Maybe you could just briefly frame the situation as it still currently is for industries like Big Pharma that are forced to deal with areas of search and social media that they're still struggling to get a hold of.
Yeah. So in traditional forms of media, like TV or print, they have well-defined protocols. So you might have seen those pharma ads on TV that then point you to the print ad, right? So that's where they can make all their disclosures, but it's usually 2 pages worth of disclosures in 4-point font. So they know how to do it in traditional forms of media, but now in digital and social media, the question is, how do they do that when you only have 70 characters, or in a tweet when you only have 140 characters? What are they allowed to do, and what can they not do in terms of search ads, social media, to stay within compliance? So, whether it's a search ad where you still have to make those disclosures, is it sufficient to just link off to a page that has the disclosures on that? And really the challenge comes in because the FDA hasn't come out with any clear guidelines.
Right.
So because of the lack of guidelines, a lot of these companies are still in wait-and-see mode, or they kind of leave it up to their own med-legal departments to say, okay, what's the fine line that we want to actually try or not? So those are some of the challenges, because these are new media, new forms of marketing that don't have a lot of protocol set.
So if some of these companies are to incorporate a digital philosophy, what's that going to mean? What's an example or two of that they would try and incorporate?
So what I mean when I say digital is a philosophy instead of the online channel is that a lot of them still think of Facebook as just yet another place to push a message out. So very often they come in and ask, what do we do on Facebook? Do we set up a community? Do we do a banner ads and try to get billions of impressions with it? But that's really not the right use of the medium. So when I say digital as a philosophy, it helps us to think about search as a way to understand what people are looking for. So imagine a physician. So if you don't have your salesperson talking to them or doing detailing, what happens at 1 a.m. in the morning when they're online looking for your product or your drug? Can they find your information? What terms they're going to use to find it? And so on and so forth. So in that case, by looking at search a little bit differently, so instead of just a way to drive traffic to your website, if we use it as a way to get insights, so that's what I call search as research, then we can understand what physicians are looking for and maybe how that's different from what patients are looking for. Right, and then we can even start to tailor it. So for physicians, we would use highly technical terms or scientific terms, and for patients, we would use layman's terms so that they can actually find the appropriate content. So in that case, the content is all already approved, so we're not doing anything outside the compliance envelope. But again, instead of thinking about driving traffic to a website, we're thinking about optimizing it for what the physician needs and what the patient needs. So in that case, to me, that's a low-hanging fruit that pharma companies should be doing. And it's not anything special, or it's not the next shiny object. It's something that could make their current content a lot more useful, a lot easier to find. So in that sense, that's how they can start doing search within these regulated industries. And that's kind of under the umbrella of digital as a philosophy, not just an online channel. So it's a way of thinking about how do we use these insights from search and social to make our marketing better.
And you were quite adamant how some of these firms and companies should stay away from PR firms and really be able to write this content for themselves.
Yeah, I mean, the example, very recent example is, once BP had the oil spill, and then they went into crisis mode, when they send out press releases that saying, oh, we're a great company, we didn't mean to, and none of that works. That's after the fact. Right. So for the pharma companies especially, or, medical device companies, you need to have people who are credible talk about it. So who better than the scientist who actually worked on the drug, or the engineer who made the medical device? They will have the credibility in the eyes of the physician who's looking for information. So that's very different than having a PR firm write, So unless the PR firm actually has engineers on staff, has MDs and PhDs on staff, you're not getting the level of scientific credibility. So in these industries, it's even more important, because it's not good enough to just say, oh, well, don't worry about it, it's fine. So that's what I mean by, look really long and hard whether, you can do that yourself. Because a lot of times if you can empower your own engineers, kind of like the way Intel did, so they actually enabled the engineers who made the chip to be the ones who talk about it and talk about the technology. Because anybody else won't have the credibility in the eyes of the IT professional who are about to buy their product. So it's exactly the same for pharma and medical devices,
And are we going to see hopefully some changes in the few years to come from the FDA and from the federal government about what new rules need to be initiated?
Unfortunately, I don't think it's that easy. There's just so many issues. So originally when we had the FDA hearings, it started out, focused around the adverse events. So how do we listen in social channels and then figure out what's reportable, right? Because they have a 72-hour window to report it. But it expanded well beyond just the adverse event issue, right? We're now talking about in search ads, what do you have to disclose? Where do you have to link to? If you stick your brand name in there, what are restrictions? If you don't stick your brand name in there, what are restrictions? So, in fact, there's so many more issues than can really be solved. So, unfortunately, I don't think a clear statement or guideline is coming out anytime soon from the FDA. But that doesn't mean the pharma companies shouldn't do anything. In fact, they should be progressively or aggressively doing some of this themselves. And, they know the compliance rules. So how do we make sure if we need to provide disclosure that the user can, in fact, find that disclosure, within a reasonable number of clicks, like one click away. So, there are ways to interpret that and then still take some action and some of the low-hanging fruit tactics that I mentioned before.
Great insight, Dr. Fu. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And there's more to come at SES New York 2012. Stay tuned for more.